That little bit you could have won. We're done. But we'll slow down.
Well, that was common. Yeah, I know.
I got my own.
Okay, it says environmental
I just got that one. Thank God. Are you running things tonight, kids? About 60. How are you? But I mean, how are you, sir? Sorry, okay.
This, which they need to reduce those, but with those two now. My first working in 64. So, if you think about it, regardless where that number is. FEMA in the B zone goes by the lowest. But if you revert back to today, like FEMA's been telling us that a lot of us are going to stay with these bad for a while. We'll stay there. Now you have to go if the elevation stays safe, you have to go. Well, you might be able to use your existing foundation. Again. Right, so with your foundation on PLD, you might be able to build up. Right, that's what I mean. So you might be able to build up on it. That'd be much easier.
What's
Right, in the B zone, people always go, a lot of it goes off on the better, and the state requires it. But the first floor to satisfy state requirements always has to be a vehicle on that vehicle. And the vehicle wants to make sure that the bottom member is always at the vehicle. So in our 14 zones, part of your joint door is going to be 15, provided your passport is 50. I'm gonna talk about that tonight. There's the CD money going out with so I'm gonna do a freeze definitely. Alright? It's gonna be very income oriented and money
I said no.
I'm gonna talk in depth about that. Alright?
I don't know you.
No, no problem. That's gonna be quick. The government made mention of like this Friday having that grant process open, but there's nothing on the website. I checked DCA earlier today, so yeah, and it's going to be it's going to be residents, not the department. So residents have to apply on their own. But I'll get into that. Oh, absolutely.
But anyway, I was going to say, that's why I'm here. Parents showed up. Good. My other story. Get out.
Oh yeah, it shows that we show a taper with the taper on that. Yeah, no, it does. Right, these are the oh, I know, it I don't see
How are you? I'm good. Good. Coming along. Thank God. How are you? Good. You guys can sign in, please, right here. This is when you don't have
Hey everybody, how you doing? All right, we're going to get started. First, thanks everybody for coming out. And we're going to turn to my right and do a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right now we'd say roll call, but it's not council meeting. First thing I want to do is tell you we're going to do, we advertised a May town hall meeting, which is tonight. We advertised a June one. We're going to do those. We're probably not going to do monthly town hall meetings after that because a lot of things that are happening now, we're going to have meeting specifics for exact things that are happening. We are going to get some information on the house lifting that's going to start happening connected to Irene. We're kind of treating that at the council level as kind of a warm-up and a dress rehearsal for the major one that'll happen from Sandy. So we're going to start having meetings that are specifically based on that, which are open to the public. Everybody's willing is okay to come. And we also have a lot of council special meetings. This month alone, we normally have 2. We're going to have at least 4. We already had 3. We have another one Wednesday night. What we're doing is addressing specific things there, so you don't have to listen through a whole meeting to stuff that you really don't care about, and then the one thing that you do care about might be at 10 o'clock at night. The last council meeting we had, we were in this room till 11:30 at night, and that's okay. We're willing to do that, but we don't want to put everything together in one night and half the people don't care about half the stuff. So, first thing I want to let you know is there are still a lot of good people out there that are donating money to Hope for Highlands, which is the group in town that's dispensing money to people that need it and are doing it in the right way, and they've already been recognized that they're doing the right thing by our attorney generals and prosecutors, so that's good right there. I have next to me Declan O'Scanlan, who's our assemblyman in town, and he works in Senator Jennifer Beck, and he's going to present money tonight for Hope for Highlands. I'd like the Hope for Highlands board to come up that are here. Come on up, please. Declan?
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be very brief because I've got a lot of other things to talk about. This really isn't about me. Here and very happy tonight to be able to make a donation to Hope for Highlands. First, I do want to explain my decidedly unprofessional attire. I had a choice tonight. Run home, get and put on a suit, or have dinner with my daughter. I opted for the second. I hope you'll forgive me. There was not a way to do both. As you all know, we've been working hard. Your mayor and all of you, the most resilient people that I have ever run into. And I'm proud to be able to say that I represent you in Trenton. You know, Senator Beck has a soft spot in her heart for this region and for this town in particular. We were kind of hashing over how we can help even more. We were talking about the fundraising we do politically. We raise a lot of money politically and you spend it on the literature that you don't like in your mailboxes any more than we like to have to put it there. And we thought, how can we do something a little more constructive with our fundraising efforts? So we started to, with each of our fundraisers, we're going to pick a charity and we're going to hope that the people giving to us politically will also donate money to a real cause, which is helping people that need it as much as you all do, and the people in this whole region do. So in around Senator Beck's last fundraiser, we're all going to do Senator Carrillo's, and we're all going to, it's going to be a collective effort going forward. But we did encourage folks who were giving to us to give also to Hope for Highlands this time around. And I have here just a tick under $9,000. You know where to reach us. The mayor can get to us anytime. Anytime anybody has an issue, whether you think we can help or not, or we're appropriate or not, call us anyway. We do our best to never say no to anyone that calls. So we're here, happy to serve you, and hope to continue doing it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
I'm not sorry, I'm glad actually. I just want to say I want to thank Declan again. Declan was on the phone with me every day while we were, the first month or so of the disaster. When we had to move the folks from the shelter at the high school to the field house at Atlantic Highlands, Declan got the showers and all that we had at the mobile unit. So they have been helping us the whole time. Just want to acknowledge that, as well as Senator Jennifer Beck. I have another resident here that just taking money out of their own pocket and wants to help Highlands. I'm looking for John Caruso from Little John's Construction. John, come on up, and his family. John is presenting a check. I know John a long time. We worked together in Jersey City. And when I think when you really started seeing the needs and the needs that are still out there, he's fortunate enough to have a good business, and he makes a living, and he wants to donate some money to this cause.
On behalf of my company, my family, and friends, I'd like to donate a check for $2,500 to Hope for Highlands. We really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to thank John Caruso and his family. Thanks again, because it's really going to go to good use. And we have one more. I got a letter. First, I had a phone call. I got a letter from folks connected to the Honeysuckle Lodge. I'm going to read this on behalf of Honeysuckle Lodge. Come on up, guys. On behalf of Honeysuckle Lodge, I'm pleased to present a Sandy relief check to Hope for Highlands Mayor Nolan for $3,500. As you know, Honeysuckle Lodge is a bungalow community that's existed on Cedar Street since the 1930s. And they're obviously a big part of our community, and we appreciate it. I have a whole letter here, which we're going to put in for public down at Borough Hall, so you can get a copy of it. I don't want to take up and read the whole thing. We do appreciate it a lot. Here you go, guys.
I was the guy who was supposed to say that. The essence of our letter is that we came to a meeting about 3 months ago, and in Honeysuckle Lodge, where we are, we lost the contents of our homes. But we didn't lose our primary homes, and we didn't lose our houses. And we were so concerned about what we saw here that we went back and we passed the hat. And when we passed the hat, we asked young people to contribute and old people to contribute. And we got checks from people that only been here once or twice, and as far away as Florida. So we wanted to just say thanks for allowing us to be part of your community, and we really appreciate the way we've been embraced. Thank you.
Thank you again, everybody connected to Honeysuckle Lodge. I just want to read one part of the letter. And it's true, it says, Highlands is not just a part of our summer, but part of our hearts. So thank you again from the Honeysuckle Lodge. Thank you, ladies, and the whole board for everything. Let's hear it for Hope for Highlands volunteer. And if anybody else wants to give money to me, go ahead. But I just want to tell you that these are all volunteers, obviously people that are using their talents to do everything they can to help the town. With that, I'm going to bring up Dale Lubner, who's our borough engineer. We passed an ordinance the other night right in this room that we talked about for about 2 months, the town council. We passed it unanimously. It's given everybody relief on height and setbacks, and we'll hopefully get everybody going, rebuilding, and not have to clog up our zoning board that, so you won't have to get any kind of waivers. Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I'll start off with what the mayor alluded to with the new zoning ordinance that was passed the other night. Basically, what that allows, it allows several things. There's a lot of you had issues with lifting your homes. You would exceed the height, our current height ordinance. What this allows is existing homes to be raised to wherever they need to be. You have the larger houses on Shrewsbury. Wherever your existing home is, you can go up to that BFE +1, because that's where your floor has to be. All right, before the height was taken from the ground level, now it's from the base flood elevation +1, so it's basically from your floor, say a foot above the BFE. Also, if you have your existing house, you're able to lift the existing house, you can lift it where it is. If you're already encroaching in setbacks and you have violation of setbacks, you can lift that house where it is without penalty. Okay? The only thing we ask is with the ingress and egress points, front and rear of the house, what we want to do is we still want to maintain 3 feet from the property lines where we can to allow for emergency access. So that's the one thing that we still have to abide by. The other thing is if you happen to knock your house down and build new, I know several of you have approached me with modular homes, which is a great idea, but you will have to comply with the setbacks of that zone, even if your old house didn't comply. Your old house encroached, you still need to comply with those setbacks unless you went to the board and sought variance relief. So that would be the only catch, is building a new house, you would still need to comply with those zones. Other than that, since the ordinance was passed, I've approved another 5 houses to go up. There was about 5 or so that went up prior to that. So right now we have 10 to 15 that are ready to go. So at least we're moving forward. That's a good sign. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's a positive movement for people to see. So I think, brighter days are ahead, so to speak. I keep telling everybody we're one day closer to trying to get everything back to normalcy. Staying on the house lifting routine here, I want to talk a little bit more about grants. We finally, and I say finally because the HIMA finally came through, we have the agreements for the Irene grants. All right, they're in the attorney's office under review. Once they get through the attorney review, we get them back to the borough for execution. We can finally move forward with those 10 to 12 properties that are affected from Irene. So we're almost 2 years removed from that storm, but at least that's another positive step that's moving forward. That's why I keep telling everybody with the hazard mitigation grant for Sandy, don't expect the money anytime soon. If this was a prelude to what to expect now, that money's still going to be about 18 months out, I'm thinking, on the hazard mitigation grant. Again, if you haven't gotten on my grants list yet and you would like to do so, please send me an email with your name and address. Get on my grants list. It's non-binding, but it keeps you in the hopper for consideration. Okay, so if you haven't done so, please tell your neighbors that aren't here yet tonight. Get the word out there a little more, that anybody else that wants to get in the grant program, please get on my list, contact me, and I'll get you on for consideration. Right now, we have several hundred that have expressed interest in that, so that's a good thing. The community development grant that the governor had spoke about when he was in town a couple weeks ago, that's rolling out quickly. I'm here May 24th, they're going to start opening up the application process. That's this Friday. Okay, it's going to be an application that is prepared by the residents. Okay, there's actually 2 grants that are involved. One is for a maximum of $150,000 to help and assist in elevating the homes. Okay, there's a lot of stipulations with this grant, as there is with all community development funding. It all comes out through HUD, which is another federal agency, and there's a lot of stipulations with regards to income requirements, assets, so on and so forth. That house that you want to lift will need to be your primary residence as of October 29, 2012. So you had to have that as your primary residence when the storm hit. Okay? The state will be using their own pre-qualified contractors to work with you on this. So it won't be like just like the hazard mitigation grant, you won't be able to lift the house and then ask for the money later. You will have to work with the state to get this work completed. Okay? And the state does have a list of pre-qualified contractors. They're looking at adjusted household incomes of under $250,000. The applicants will be processed on a first received, first served basis. So as soon as that opens up, it'll be on the state DCA website. I'll give you that website in a minute. As soon as that opens up and you're interested in that grant, get on that website and get the application completed. Okay, like I said, it is a first come, first served type of grant. The state will subtract any other award that you had received for your house to prevent duplication of benefits. That would include any kind of NFIP funding you received, any kind of FEMA funding you received, any kind of approval for an SBA, Small Business Administration loan, anything along those lines. That'll be taken away from the $150,000. So I mean that's a catch. There's no doubt about that.
Is that just for water damage, or have they got money to the left?
Money for damages.
Okay.
Money for damages.
Because people have been confused with that.
Right. And now keep in mind, that's a good point you raised, is the ICC money is something else you would have access to. That's another $30,000. So that would be most likely taken out of that $150,000 already. Okay?
Damage or for raising?
It would be, you would have got money for damages already. So basically, the money's used for raising. But say your house takes $80,000 to raise, rough figures, okay? And you still needed more money to fix the damages. That $150,000 can be used towards that, whatever the remaining is, can be used towards fixing the damages. So it's not just a sole grant for lifting the house. It also goes for damages as well. All right, but what they do is they'll take out whatever awards you received prior from FEMA, NFIP, so on and so forth, away from that $150,000. Okay, let me give you the state website that this is going to be on. It's www.state.nj.us/DCA. It's under the Department of Community Affairs. That's the website.
We'll have that on our website too.
Right, www.state.nj.us/DCA. www.state.nj.us/DCA. Okay, that's the website you want to go on. Now, on that website,
When does that actually go on the website, please?
go on the DCA website. I looked today, it wasn't there yet, but keep looking. The governor is still saying the 24th, which is Friday. So what I'm saying is check it every day. All right? On the DCA website, I'll get to questions in a minute, folks. There are lists of requirements. Okay? Part of the requirements is proof of storm damage. All right? Verification of registration with FEMA. You had to register with FEMA after the storm, which I can almost guarantee almost everybody did. Proof of primary residency at the time of the storm. Documentation of ownership. There'll be a pre-storm home value. There'll be an income certification source, documentation. If you have any disabled people in your house, which several of you have come to me with those concerns with access, that's also going to be considered. And that's also going to be allowed under the grant to try to get access to those people in the houses. So I think that's a great thing. And the documentation of any compensation received so far to date. FEMA, NFIP, access to ICC money, so on and so forth. So that currently, what I just told you now, is on the DCA website. So if you want to go on there and poke around, take a look. Like I said, I looked late this afternoon. I did not see it on the DCA website yet. Okay, but keep looking. The other part of that is a homeowner resettlement program. Okay, that's a grant that's up to $10,000. And basically that's almost like a grant to say, hey, thanks for staying in your houses, thanks for staying put in the communities you currently live in. You know, here's $10,000 you may be eligible for to further help you in assisting in repairing your homes, fixing your damage, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's still going to be the same thing. That's still under community development. And again, it's going to have the same, primarily the same restrictions on it. And basically what it's for, it's to try to help stabilize neighborhoods, to try to keep people from walking away. You know, if you have 20 homes on your block, you know, and you want to get down to a point where you now have 12. You know, the intent here is to try to keep people in their homes, to keep the neighborhood sustainable. Okay, so that's also on the website. It's a homeowner resettlement program. And again, the stipulations, FEMA has to verify the losses. It's income restricted. 60% of those award funds will be towards low and moderate income families. The other 40% are going to be to the non-low and moderate, say. Okay? Same thing for the other grant. The other grant, I believe, is 75 towards low and moderate, and the other 25% is wide open. That's what they're saying so far.
Is that first come, first served?
That is first come, first served. Right? So definitely keep looking at this website. As soon as you see those applications, get on that website and get it. It's not just, you're not just, and I don't want to use the word compete, but you're not just competing against other people in town. It's against everybody that got damaged along the Bay Shore, along the ocean front, you know, the whole Eastern Seaboard, including the New York districts. You know, it's federal money, so it's not just something coming out of the state. So New Jersey definitely wants to keep their share and wants to get that money spent to help people. But keep in mind, New York's also competing for this money as well. So, you know, definitely get on the website and get yourself situated. Besides that, if you haven't come down to see me, if you have questions on any kind of zoning, if you want to put a new house in, you have any questions on lifting your houses, I still have not seen the working maps from FEMA. They were promised last week. I still haven't gotten them as of today. But again, a lot of as FEMA has told me, a lot of those zones should come back to an A zone. A lot of those houses that were in an A before the storm, that are now currently in that V14, should come back to an A, which is going to make life a lot easier as far as lifting. Financially, with the physical lift, financially with house insurance, etc. So I have eager anticipation for those maps to get into my hands. As soon as I get those maps, even though they're not for public consumption, I will definitely share the information that we see, and we'll, you know, if we need to appeal any of that information, we will do so as needed. Sure. Again, my hours down at the Solutions Center at 19 Bay. I'm there 12 to 4 on Tuesdays, 4 to 8 on Thursdays. The best way to get me is by email. I don't have a lot of time to return phone calls these days. You might get a stray email around midnight some nights, but sometimes it's the only time I have a chance to even respond. So that's the best way to get me. If you don't have my contact information, see me before the night's over. I'll give you a card. It has all my contact info on it. And then, and again, feel free. A lot of people have been apologizing for the questions they're asking. Please, it's never enough questions. This is new to all of us. It's new to you. It's new to us. It's new to the state. You can't ask enough questions. So please, don't ever feel that you're being overburdened or whatever. Ask as many questions you need to.
Dale, excuse me, on the DCA website, they did put the other day, if you have to search for it, but there is a notification page on the resettlement page that you can click on there and log on and put your information, and they will email you with any information that comes through. Again, they were overloaded the other day and it kind of shut down for a little while, so you might have to check it a couple of times, but there isn't, it's not very clear, but it's in blue, and if you put your mouse over it, you click on it, and then you can put your information in there.
All right, good. Thanks, Pat.
So it's better to go at night. I've gone through it at night more than during the day, but they'll email you. But that's just a second way, again.
Perfect.
Check again yourself, but then that's another way.
Sure. I did see a couple hands up.
When these grants open up, if you don't know the actual cost for raising your house and putting a foundation in, and the DFE is not set yet, we don't know whether we're an A zone or a B zone, so there's all these unknown variables. How do you apply for a grant, or how do they evaluate it if there's so many unknowns still out there?
Right now, if you were to apply for this grant today, right, the ABFEs remain intact. So it would be, if you're in the majority of the downtown, like everybody else is, most likely you're in that ABFE V14. All right, you're in that V14 zone, regardless if you go back to an A later. If you're applying today, that's where you are. All right. Now again, the state's going to take over when you apply. The state does their own. They come out and they do their own estimates. They do their own review, so to speak, and they get you through the process.
So I don't have to walk in with that estimate, with an architect's plan and the actual cost to build that foundation.
No.
It's just applying for them.
Just apply for you to get into that program and for them to consider you. All right, Chris.
What I'm hearing you say is that they're treating an SBA loan award as income received. That doesn't seem very fair, since at this point we kept on telling people to apply for SBA. Now you have quote-unquote income, but it's not income.
Right.
It's a loan. It doesn't sound fair. Could you verify that they really mean that?
Absolutely. It's written in black and white on their requirements. Basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to limit the grants that go out there. So what they're saying is, if you were approved for $30,000 through SBA, they're saying, okay, you got that approval, so that's part of your allocation through this grant.
Whether you took it or not.
Right.
What's the grant, what's the loan? Big difference.
A huge difference. I agree. This is the way they rolled out, but I can certainly follow up on that.
Second question. Do you have to be substantially damaged to qualify for that grant?
Or does that knock you out?
They said major substantial damage, okay, and FEMA's going to do their own, actually it's the state is going to do their own calculation based on damage. They will come out and do a review on the property.
Do you know the formula of that?
I have no idea. I have a flow chart that I downloaded
They
today.
didn't use the word substantial damage in that official determination that we're using for the town.
Right.
They did not use that.
Okay.
Right? Or yes, I don't know.
They said major, let me see if I can find the wording real quick.
How many pounds are substantially damaged downtown?
Right now, there's over 800. I have over 100 appeals right now that I'm working through. Just looking for the damages.
It was almost the same as the ICC. It said that you would sustain previous damage in multiple storms, I think 2 within 4 years, or you were declared 50% substantially damaged to the property value.
Now, if I can just tack onto that, proof of storm damage, which includes the local floodplain manager determination letter. Okay. So if you've got that, that's something they'll take into consideration.
And who's our local floodplain?
That would be me.
Nice
to meet you.
I knew the answer. That was just for exercise.
I guess there's one quick third question. The substantial damage determination is something that you've made, and we've created this appeal process.
Right.
Yet we have to acknowledge that does a resident want to appeal that number
And possibly lose their grant.
and possibly lose a grant,
Very good point.
and we won't know the grants for 18 months. So I don't, and I know that you've told others
Right.
that there is a fairly short period to appeal. And I'm suggesting we need to review that.
We can certainly review it, all right?
You
There
have to
has
make a decision tonight,
Right, there-
but understand the problem.
You might
Right.
knock yourself out of the grant.
right,
And at this point, you may not want to be substantially damaged and appeal it if you're not gonna get the grant, because that puts other restrictions on you.
right. I understand. I have not set a date. We can certainly talk about that, all right? That's not a problem.
Okay.
The-
There's nothing pushing us to set a date in my mind.
Right, FEMA's only words to me was along the lines, well, if they don't know they're damaged by now, they'll never know, because we're 8, 9 months after the storm.
I think you also have to see how this really rolls out.
Correct.
Sure.
In the next 96 hours or so, and then really start having conversations with the people higher up.
Absolutely.
You know, FEMA,
Yeah.
whatever, and our elected officials.
Right.
And I think it's gonna be more of a conversation with HUD, to be honest about it, because FEMA, I think, is gonna kind of be out of the picture on this one, be HUD.
And that's what I'm
state.
talking about, folks, and I say, like, we might have a next meeting that is just this for 3 hours, and that's okay, we'll do that, but we might not talk about, you know, Hope for Highlands or whatever else, we might just be this with people here from HUD and things like that. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Thank you, Dale.
No, no problem. Sir?
So I have a question about ICC money. I had emailed you over the weekend. My insurance company said that I wouldn't qualify for ICC money until the job was done, the house was raised.
Right, I remember your email.
Okay, which is crazy, doesn't even make sense.
I agree.
But that being said, if we get one of these grants, will the insurance company say, well, you're not going to qualify for ICC money now because you already had some money?
That's,
So it might get less of a grant for the ICC money.
right, it might work reverse. The flood insurance provider would have to, they're still on the hook for up to 30,000. That's a given in your policy. All right, but that might shorten you on the grant side. In other words, they couldn't go the other way where they're, oh, you're gonna get 150, then, you know, I'm not gonna give you your 30. It might work the other way, where at the end of the day, you still get your 150, but it might be 120 here and 30 here.
Well, that being said then, along the way, whenever you're actually doing the work, say your job costs you $100,000 to lift your house, get the whole thing done. Your bill is $100,000. The grant, they know you're gonna get $30,000 worth of ICC money, so they're only issuing you $70,000. How do you pay for the rest of the job? Because the ICC money won't kick in until the job's done.
Well, here's the beauty of this grant, of this community development grant. The state, the representative from the state that'll be working with you, they make the payments to your contractor. All right, it won't be a contractor that you hire, they'll hire the contractors, because they pre-qualify the contractors that they use. So they'll have somebody come and actually do the work, and they will make the payments to that person. All right, so it won't be like, you know, you're gonna get a bill from this guy and say, all right, how am I gonna pay for this now? ICC's out here. The state, according to what I'm reading here, the state is handling that paperwork for you. And handling right down to the processing of the contractor's invoices.
And the contractor will know that going into it, so they'll know not to expect X from you at a
Right.
certain date. They'll probably, I would guess, get paid monthly or quarterly on a bulk of everything they're doing.
The state already had a pre-qualification process where they actually bid out the scope of work and what they anticipate from these contractors. That's also on the DCA website if you want to look a little more on that. I think it's something we should probably put a link on our own website too, to be honest about it.
Ken's gonna do that.
Okay. All right.
Also, I wanted to make, Patty just went on, Patty Parker went on, and the website that Dale had said before, go to Superstorm Sandy Recovery Division, and it brings you right to where you can fill it out, and then get an email notification when the real forms are ready.
All the way in the back, Mr.
I just want to ask two quick questions. One is that we can't start the work until we get the time.
Right, because you're not hiring a contractor.
I would not, man.
Right.
We went through this with Irene, and people were told they were disqualified because they started the work ahead of time. We've said that at every meeting.
Right, the state is hiring a contractor.
And the second quick question is, if we had sent you our name to be put on the list, we still have to.
Yeah, because what happened, when I asked for the name to come on the list, we didn't know what grants were gonna come out. All right, and we didn't know how they were going to roll out. Now that they're coming through further on this community development grant, the way they are rolling this out is the residents themselves have to apply. And then the state's gonna deal with the residents directly. They're almost like they're cutting the municipality out of the picture and dealing with the residents directly. All right? Mr. Van Wagner, you had a question?
Yes. I'm a little bit silly. I can't quite understand this. If I have $100,000 I received from my flood insurance company, and they give me a $150,000 grant, they could give you that amount. what they would only be giving me is 50,000, is that correct?
For repairs. Now, if you got say you had $100,000 worth of damage where you had to repair your house to get it back in, say, livable condition, all right, you still have your lifting money over here. So if your lift cost $150,000, you can still get all the $150,000 over here. I don't think your lift is going to cost $150,000, but you're still eligible for that money over here.
So the 100 comes off the amount?
Right, because what they're saying is that they'll give you $150 if it costs $80 to lift and you have $70 left. They'll put that towards damages, but overall they're going to retract or subtract what they gave you prior.
Okay, and in the beginning of it, I think you said there's an asset qualification. If you have money in the bank for a low income, is the money in the bank going to knock you out from?
That's something that the state's going to have to determine.
Is that has the asset requirement?
Yeah, they did say that.
Did they give you any limits?
You may.
They haven't given any limits except
We're not
for.
going to know that till that piece of, till that actual
But that could
document
be.
comes out.
Right. But I would still say, even if you're on the fence, whether you qualify or not, apply for it. The worst they can do is say no.
Definitely apply.
You know, that's the worst they can do is say
Not
no.
only that, I think
You're
it's
done.
going to be more than one round.
I agree with you.
Everyone apply, because there's definitely going to be more than one round in my opinion.
I agree. Well, the governor alluded to that too. It's going to be more money
A lot of
coming
people have said that, but not publicly.
out. Right. Understood. Sir?
Just a quick question. Is there any grants available? This is our secondary school down here in the county. And a few of my neighbors are here, and we need help too. So, rebuild and stabilize.
Sure.
Is there anything that has been rolled out or talked about?
Yeah. I haven't seen anything yet. That's not saying they're not going to. I mean, I think right now what they're trying to do is deal with people in their primary homes. They want to get people out of hotels, out of temporary housing. Right. No,
You're still paying taxes.
Right, I absolutely get where you're coming from. I haven't seen anything yet, but that's not saying there's not going to be something coming out in the future. All right, maybe be a second round, there might be something else. Maybe through the SBA if you tried on that,
Well, I think if you think about it, common sense, you've got like Bayhead and your LBIs and places like that, that's probably 90% second homes. They're not leaving those towns like that.
Because it was a secondary home anyway.
Right, and they're not leaving those towns like that. I mean, there's no way they can. Those towns will go away. You know what I mean?
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
A couple of things. The setback, what is the new setbacks or whatever, what have you done? My house is so destroyed that I'm looking at demolishing it and rebuilding. So now I'm have to build in closer. I mean,
Sure.
if the setbacks are wider, I have a 25-foot wide lot.
Well,
No, the setbacks were only wider. They were
Huh?
lessened. The setbacks were
Well,
lessened.
no, that's what I'm saying. So I have a 20-foot wide house right now. I mean, the setbacks are gonna make me go, 18, I mean, what?
They will.
No, they're giving you more room.
Right,
Because you have to raise and build stairways and decks to get up and down once the houses are raised.
Right.
We lessened the setback to give you more room.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
what I'm.
we tried to make it not a free for all.
for the stairways. But now, keep in mind that, see, you have a 25-foot lot. A lot of the zones downtown are 50, even though we have a 25-foot lot
Right.
zone. So they have a non-conforming lot. All right, so basically, the width, the side yard setbacks get reduced by the width of the lot, but not any less than half. So say if your side yards were 6 and 8, they go down to 3 and 4. So now if you want to build something bigger than that, then you'd have to go to the board.
Oh, no, I'm actually looking to stay within the same footprint. I'm just concerned that
Right, come
I
in.
can't stay with that.
I understand. Stop in and see me, and then I'll go over everything. We'll look at everything and make sure you're on the right path.
Okay, and I also wanted to say this for everybody, to register and put that information in for the notification on the website, on the community development, whatever
Yep.
website you said. I did it on the business end, and as soon as the business grants opened up, I got an email telling me the business grants were opened up and to get on and apply.
Perfect.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
Quickly.
So I was looking for a segue into that. Part of that grant said if you started, you were disqualified. We've talked to Frank Pallone's office because like businesses tried to get open for Memorial Day, so they went ahead and started before grants were available. But if you look at the grant and the wording, you're not qualified if you started already.
Well, I'm also not qualified because I had just opened, so I don't meet the minimum.
I don't know that part of it, but I had a lot
have to figure
of,
that out at this
Right.
point. It's another issue.
sure, but obviously a lot of our, that have
Yeah.
the big boom in the summer had to be open for Memorial Day. And
Right.
thank God most are. We'll have a lot of good things happening this weekend here. We've spoken to the governor's office who said, listen, we're on board with you, but this is a federally run thing, so we've talked to Congressman Pallone's office, and they are working on trying to get us some kind of relief as far as that goes, because you got to do environmental studies and things like that. They're not throwing that out the window, but they also have to have a real-world application, because we all started to get done.
And
So they're
because,
working on that.
I mean, I'm in a real catch-22 here because of my whole situation.
Sure.
But, and that I own the building, I need to repair that building.
Right.
So I can't be left behind in this.
Sure. As those things evolve, obviously, we'll bring that to the table.
Sir, back?
Once you pitch your house and move back in, and you're waiting for this grant money or ICC money or insurance money, wherever it may be coming from, and you don't get it, is Highlands going to make it mandatory to lift that property up out of Lawrence Way?
If you still have a substantial damage letter that you haven't appealed, or you agree with that letter, and that by the end of 2016, you will have to have that house up in the air. The borough has to follow through on this to maintain its own ratings in the
The
NFIP.
borough will force you to go up, or else you'll have to get out of that home.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? There's nothing in writing yet. You know, I can't imagine somebody in January 1, 2017 knocking on your door like this saying, okay, time to go. I don't see that. You know, it certainly won't be me, I'm gonna tell you that right now. You know, so, you know, the intent is we have to give some kind of a deadline to satisfy FEMA, to keep the borough's ratings in, because it affects the mortgages overall. You know, the mortgages and the flood insurance, I should say. You know, more so on the flood side. So there isn't any set penalty, so to speak. You know, the one thing that will be is you won't get a final CO if you go to sell it. All right, so that'd be the one thing. But I mean, is somebody gonna be there, you know, sitting there waiting with a couple boxes, saying, "All right, come on, get out of your house"? I don't see that happening.
Can I just want to also, while we're, sorry.
Sell your property because you can't get a final CO.
Well, if somebody knows it's supposed to be lifted and you didn't, that's going to lessen your cost.
Get money to live in the house and sell it, and it'll be a wash.
I also want to say, I think that if you didn't qualify for insurance, ICC and all, SBA and stuff, you'd probably be one of the top people in the grant picture unless your assets, you know, put you out of it. Also, we're having a special meeting Wednesday night, the council, the zoning board, and the planning board at the community room at Patak Tower, 7:30, right guys? 7:30, because we're trying to answer questions just like this with all three boards there and give everybody an idea of what these three boards are trying to do, working together to move the town forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? No problem. Yeah.
Sir, in the back?
Everything you're saying applies to condominiums or multiple condominiums.
You know, obviously, if you have a condominium complex or a townhouse complex, you're not going to be able to lift it. So if you have a situation where, say, you have a complex that was substantially damaged, all right, that would be a flood-proofing scenario. So there would be money available to flood-proof that complex, that structure, so to speak, up to the requirements you'd have to have if you lifted a house, say. So you'd have to flood-proof up to the BFE. And that'd be something an architect would have to certify, something you can do with the walls, the windows, and the doors, so on and so forth. But that's where that would come into play, and that's certainly a grant-driven item too. I mean, that qualifies for that grant. Artie, any question?
Yeah, if there's two houses on the property and you live in one, it's one lot, is that still considered your primary house?
The state would have to make a determination. I would say that one house would qualify and one wouldn't. If they ask me, because you're living in the one, you're not living in the second. But that'd be something the state would have to weigh in on.
Yeah, you have the answer to what if you registered with FEMA, but you did not apply for an SBA loan, how that will impact your qualifying for a grant.
They did not say anything in these qualifications that you had to apply for an SBA. As long as you registered with FEMA initially, went through and got your case number, I guess,
Right.
and then you're okay. If you didn't do that, then you couldn't even apply for this.
Okay.
They just want to know how much money you got from SBA.
This has nothing to do with the questions, but can people turn their cell phones off? It's really annoying. It's just a courtesy.
I just have one clarifying question too. If you did get the SBA loan granted and you don't want it, given how complicated and crazy it is, you go wash with and starting fresh, or
That would be something that the state would make a determination on. They're going to look to see, and they will pull the documents to see if you applied for it, but you'd have to work something out with them. If you didn't take it for one reason or another, that would be a call that they'd have to make.
Oh.
All right? Anybody else?
I'm just curious as to whether there will be enough grant money for all the otherwise qualified property owners for house raising.
There's going to be several rounds of funding. All right, so this is the first round that's rolling out. That's why it's important to get on that website and get registered, apply for it quickly to try to even get yourself in the first round if you qualify. All right, I can't imagine that they're going to shut this down after one round. There's going to be a second round of funding that's coming out on this. So it might delay you a little bit on getting the funding, but there's going to be more than one round. All right, so there should be.
So hopefully by 2016 everybody qualifies.
But I would apply as if there's not going to be another one.
Right.
Just because you want to be on the list and get going.
Exactly.
Me personally, that's what
Right. The intent here, especially from the borough side, we're not looking to hurt anybody, whether it's your primary residence, whether you're renting out, anything like that. We're trying to work with the feds and the state, trying to get things in to help everybody. It's difficult sometimes trying to deal with those outside agencies and still maintain what the borough's trying to accomplish itself as well. So, again, bear with us. I know some of the answers probably aren't what you want to hear, but we can certainly talk further about it. And, we'll decide as things go. I mean, this is going to be an ever-changing and evolving situation as we move forward.
Yeah.
Basically, okay, so there's going to be a span up to 4 years to lift the house. During that period, do you know if the flood insurance program, because that's what everybody's saying, if you don't raise your house,
Right.
the rates are going way up here. Well, are you grandfathered in until that date comes and doesn't happen, or?
Right now, I'm going to say that would be up to your flood insurance provider, okay? What I am being told is once these maps, the new maps are rolling out, once they are adopted, the word advisory gets pulled away, and that the maps are fair game for flood insurance, all right? Whether your provider, knowing if you're in the process, say, getting approved to lift, or whether they decide to play hardball with you and do that, that's going to be up to them. But it is fair game once those new maps are adopted.
I did talk to state people, and what they're trying to do is if you have a real plan, you're in the grant process, you've applied and everything else, to give a 24-month hold. Now, that doesn't mean it's coming. That don't mean they're going to just settle on 24. They're trying to get that initially so everybody that got hit hard is not going to get hit again with flood insurance because they physically can't do the lift in that amount of time. I want to remember something else too. We have at least 800 right now. Union Beach has 1,000. There's so many just in the Bayshore area that the state contractors that are approved are probably going to have to subcontract out other people, in my opinion, to get all these done in that time frame. That's really what we're looking at. So the good news is we have a lot of good people in Highlands too that can do these things, and people right around Highlands, a lot of good companies that can do it. The bad news is they're not all going to get done in 3 years, obviously. There's so many going on just in the Bayshore, let alone all over, you start going inland.
Mr. Major?
Yeah, when would you think that the flood maps will be finally adopted and approved or whatever?
I'm hearing several things. I'm hearing sometime in 2014, FEMA had said that they would like to roll these out and try to get them adopted by the end of the year. I don't see that happening. I really don't. I would say sometime in 2014 would probably be a safe bet.
So it wouldn't be advisable to lift until that's done, right?
Again, it's up to you. It depends what your situation is. I don't want to tell you to hold off and then have, God forbid, we get another storm that comes through.
What is it currently now? Height?
14 most of the time.
And speak to how the new ordinance is adapted between.
Right, exactly. And just to follow up what the mayor just said, the ordinance that we passed, and I think you were at the meeting the other night too, right, and rolls with the current flood elevation. So when the new maps, right now we're adopting into the ABFE, because that's what's current. All right, if those new maps come out, and say the new maps come out and the elevation is predominantly 12. Well, if your house is in 12 at that point, then that's what we base it on. We don't base it on the 14, we base it on 12, because that'd be the current elevation at that time.
So the ordinance will change with it.
Okay, so.
And the governor's behind the ABFEs. He's not
He's made it pretty clear it's going to be 14.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Major?
The ordinance that we adopted the other night, it's going to be, part of the aim was so it's totally consistent with the FEMA map.
Yes, it is consistent to adopt those ABFE maps right now that the governor adopted. That's to help people get their ICC money, and that's to give people some kind of a standard to build to right now.
It was to give towns direction too. And a good point that was just brought up, if you go to 14 and it goes back to 12, all that happens is you limit your insurance money that you're paying out as premium, if not to nothing.
So I'd be concerned that it's 14 is over 50.
I don't disagree, but I don't know that we're gonna go 15. I think
Right, they told us, again, when FEMA rolled these ABF fees out, they said they went conservative with it. They all admitted that, because they wanted to give people a standard to build to that wouldn't change to the worse later on. So they told us when they rolled these maps out, this is the worst you're going to see. The new maps that roll out will be equal to or better. All right?
But with those maps, they were saying, okay, we're rolling them out to 14, and it's even better if you go another 2 feet to go 16. So what do you do? Just go to 14 or go to the 16?
Again, that would be your call, because obviously it costs more money to go the extra 2 feet, but on the flip side, your insurance is going to be better off. So you'd have to weigh that out.
If they end up reducing it to 12.
Yeah, then your insurance is even way better off.
How did you know insurance?
You know what I mean? So you would have to talk to your insurance company, get an idea of what they would say. Just hypothetically, if you went 2 foot over the BFE.
If you go on the DEP website, there's actually a breakdown of how many years it takes you to recover, or how many feet that's going to cost, or how much more it's going to cost you if you're below the height.
Oh, okay. All right, the gentleman in the front just told me that on the DEP website, there's a breakdown for how many feet above the BFE you are, what it would take to recover that, and what you would pay ultimately more for how many feet you're inside it. So that's something to go to too, is at the state DEP website. Sir?
The new orders that you passed the other night, did they keep the +1 for the town?
Yes, we had to, and here's why. FEMA and the state aren't on the same page per se when it comes to where to base the elevations from. FEMA always requires in a V zone the bottom to lowest horizontal structural member. Okay? They want that set at a minimum of the BFE, which is what we did. We used to be a foot above that. We set it at that, provided that your first floor is a foot above the BFE. All right?
You kept the +1 at the finished floor.
Yes, and regardless what zone you're in.
Not +1 of the BFE.
Right. It's right. The finished floor has to be a foot above the BFE to satisfy state flood hazard regulations. Sir, in the back?
Just a little more clarification on the SBA loan. If I apply for the SBA loan, whatever money that they'll give me in a loan is going to come off any grant that I want.
For the community development. All right, for the community development only. It may not come off the hazard mitigation grant.
So far, they said it's not, but, that might evolve as they roll out.
Right, the community development program has said that they are taking the awards from the SBAs into consideration.
Now, the plan too, we're gonna know this by June, what's going on, we'll have this concrete. At the next, I think it's June 17th is the next town hall meeting. I'm gonna hopefully have a gentleman here from banking and insurance that's been here many times when we were in the high school. And it's in this building too in June. So we're gonna try to bring him here and anyone else that he can bring from that office, from the state, and let us know exactly where we stand and the implications of doing this or doing that.
So then maybe we shouldn't apply for the SBA?
I would definitely apply for the grant that's gonna be on the website for the $150,000. If you didn't apply, can you still apply for SBA?
No, SBA is closed.
SBA is closed anyway, yeah, that ended in, I believe,
FEMA
last
is
month.
closed, and SBA,
Did the SBA close? I thought SBA closed already.
Signs down.
Yeah.
That means anything.
Folks, here's what we're gonna do, we're gonna have Mr. Hill talk next, and if you took an index card, please fill out any questions that you have, we're gonna read that after the break, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Hill, Borough Administrator, thank you, Dale.
No problem. Sure.
A hard act to follow.
Yeah.
What I do want to say, though, on behalf of the borough, we know there's a lot of efforts going into our recovery as a community, and the borough is committed through many facets to make sure that we have people in place and hopefully the programs in place to help carry out some of that long-term recovery effort. No one said it was going to be easy. I think if we sat here the night of the storm, I think we were up here.
We were here Saturday, yeah.
We would have never envisioned what was happening downtown.
We were here, the command center was here.
Absolutely. So this building has great memories. Basically, what I want to let you know too, there's a lot of programs that we are continuing. One that I need to mention is the Solution Center still has operational hours, and we did change the hours of the office. The Monday is 12 to 8. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 10 to 6. Friday is 9 to 3. And Saturday is 8 to 12 noon. The distribution center hours are Tuesday from 10 to 2, Thursday from 4 to 6, and Saturday from 10 to 2 right now. If there's other needs that need to be met, the Solution Center staff is willing to work with the residents on that. In difference to the Workforce Development Program grant that we had received to help supplement the borough staffing needs, we are going to hopefully continue with the Solution Center to some degree. Department of Public Works, the building department has gotten some help through the Workforce Development Grant, and one of the programs we're hoping to implement, we haven't gotten approval yet, is we're going to do very, very informal housing inspections, and I don't want anyone to fret about that, but we're going to put hopefully folks in place. We're just trying to do another very general assessment of walking the streets that were impacted by Sandy, just to get an idea if folks are living in the home or not. It's a very, very unobtrusive. We're not going to be knocking on your door and coming in your home, but we're really trying to gauge what our next step for recovery is. It's important. We've had these assessments done by AmeriCorps and other groups that have been through the town, but that data changes, as we know, basically week to week, month to month. So we're going to be doing that again. One of the items I need to bring up too, we've applied, at least on the local level, with the projects that are considered project worksheets, public assistant type programs. The borough's applied for approximately 12 different grants. I don't want to tell you how many millions of dollars it's probably going to be down the road that we're applying for, but that's to address all of our facility needs, our damages, and our costs of over, I believe, $4.2 million that we've incurred to date due to Sandy. So we're working diligently to recover that money. I know the mayor and everyone here would like to say it's going up to 90% reimbursement. We haven't heard that formally. So everything that we say, he's going to say 100. I'm going to tell you right now, as I stand here as administrator, I have to tell you 75%. Okay, right now as we stand here. So we're working hard to recover every dollar we can, and all the departments that were impacted are part of that team and a part of that process. Another item I want to mention is FEMA is going to be sending in a municipal assistance team. They have retired professionals in New Jersey. They're going to be meeting with us very soon to give us some help and give us some direction on some of the things we may need to address based on their experiences. So we're looking forward to having that team come in. They'll be working closely with municipal officials. They really won't be out in the field or calling upon residents, but they're offering their help to us in that regard. One of the other things I know, Hope for Highlands, I don't see Carla here, but the Hope for Highlands, the Robin Hood Foundation grant program is underway. There is stipulations and criteria. I do encourage anyone to look at the criteria. It is on the website, highlandsnj.com. Click on Hope for Highlands and then click on grants, and then they'll have a listing of a couple of grants that they still have available. I can tell you that the criteria for the Robin Hood grant, owner-occupied dwellings must be Sandy damaged, must be returning to the dwelling, and that's pretty much, what they're saying. Those are the three criteria. Well, yeah, those are then we'll get into the eligibility. Those three are important, and then of course we slide over to the low to moderate income. Family size of 1 is 46,300. Family size of 2 is 52,900, and then it scales upwards from there. Through that program, and Robin Hood is the program that funded, residents are eligible for up to $5,000 to help get them back into their homes if, hoping that's all they need, or maybe that's a piece of what they need at this point. It has to be able also to get you into a code compliance situation. So if you need windows, floors, doors, everything soup to nuts, and $5,000 isn't really going to get you into your home or your structure, I don't know that grant's going to be made readily available. However, if we can partner up and match up those funds with other funds that are out there, the program supervisor in that position is working hard to make sure that happens as well. Robin Hood will grant sometimes an exemption or an exception to go up a little bit, but they really set the bar at the $5,000 to start out. They want us to try to help at least 40 to 50 residents if at all possible. So that's a challenge that we have. Also this weekend, and I do encourage everyone to participate or come out, the annual Memorial Parade is being held Saturday, May 25th, 1 p.m. kicking off at Huddy Park. The veterans groups, the Legion and the VFW, were working hard. They were also impacted, their facilities, their structures, their volunteers were all impacted by the storm as well as everyone else. They decided that they wanted to try to make the parade a go again, and we're supporting that. So we're hoping that folks will come out and support that. Likewise, if you belong to any group and you'd like to march in the parade, please call the VFW at 872-2350 because they'd love to hear from you. That's the only plug that I'll do for tonight. Other than that, we're busy. I've also been informed that Gateway National Park is up and running, and they're very excited that the park is open for business. There's going to be a lot of restrictions out there in terms of facilities, but they're working every day to get their facilities up and running as well. On a local note, we are working diligently this week to try to get the beach access completed over at Community Center. You can clap, somebody clap. I hate to say we had to have the engineer, but we had the engineer, the construction official, we had to verify that that structure could be put back in place. Actually, it was lifted up, so we got a little lucky, if you can say that. It lifted up and then set back down, not in its proper place, but it can be reinstalled. We're very confident in a safe manner. Then we'll have somebody like Joe build the stairs and we'll be good to go. Other than that, if you have any questions, I know the police department is in the middle of relocating formally to 42 Shore Drive. I can't get into, well, I won't get into the detail, but there's a major thing happening tomorrow. Hopefully, if all goes well and our telecom systems all work as they're supposed to, in and out, then we'll be good to roll. So that's another transition that we've been working on. Yes, sir.
I have some construction waste on my property. Not a lot, not enough for a top or anything like that. How can I get rid of it?
Good question.
From you, sir, or from somebody else?
Construction. Well, we've been telling folks. What we've been telling folks to do is, because we're well outside the parameters of providing dumpsters again, we are looking into it and trying to work with FEMA, and as a matter of fact, with my meeting tomorrow, I'm going to see what they say. But we're well beyond the cleanup of debris. However, those small dumpsters, those dumpster bags, those are alternatives. We've even tried to encourage, neighbors helping neighbors. I mean, if 4 of us on the block have a little bit of debris, maybe we can get together and take care of it that way. So it's very, very difficult.
Those bags are $30 for the bag and $139 for pickup. And it's 3 yards. If you do 2 bags at once, it comes down $20 a bag. All right? And it's Johnny on the spot. It's real simple.
So the dumpster bags for small debris is a great way to go.
You get them at Home Depot. It's easy peasy.
We've seen a lot of them out there, and I don't think I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if you pay a permit fee for that type of dumpster.
No.
I'll let that one be. I'll let that one be.
Anybody make any notes here on that?
On that, other than that, we're moving right along. The recreation program's getting ready for the summer. The elementary school up here has graciously allowed us to relocate up here for the summer. I did touch on at the council meeting last week, we are faced with some serious flood insurance issues of our own with regards to our municipal facilities. Suffice it to say, the quotes for doing some of our buildings have come in cumulatively about $100,000 to $120,000 a year.
We pay nothing now.
And we pay nothing now because we weren't required to have flood insurance. But as we go with the grant monies and the funds that may be available, we're also going to be required to be facing that situation. So we're looking at that daily. We're speaking to our insurance folks, speaking with FEMA, and anything that we can do. We are certainly in definitely the same position as the homeowner, property owner with that regard, because we have to take a look at what those costs are going to be long term and what we can do to mitigate or flood proof, as they call it, if we're allowed to do so. So we're working hard on that every day. We'd like to get back in our own buildings and all, but we see that's going to be a little ways off before we can really make those types of decisions. Any questions?
Has there been any movement at all with the Army Corps of Engineers about to deal with the town mitigation, not just individual homes, but as a town?
I think they're really all working, I don't want to speak for Tim, but I think they're really all working on getting everybody into the houses first, and that's like the major thing that the governor is putting all the assets and all the resources he can behind, because so many people are still not living in their own primary residence. And then you'll see that come out, in my opinion, in the next 2 years also. There's going to be like a lot of things like that that are going to hit, and that's going to be federal and state. So that, I'm sure they'll get together on something and figure it out. I haven't even seen anything in writing what the advisory is for each town yet. So.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. Are you going to at some point in time address publicly how we're going to deal with our flooding issue as a town, with the fact that it's coming up and not in?
Coming up, what,
Well,
water or the?
It comes from all sources. We know we get a lot of runoff. I can say that the borough's been very aggressive, in my opinion, and I think they've done a good job. There is a stormwater drainage project that's shelf ready.
That we applied for 2 years ago.
Long before this storm, and we keep hearing good news. We do keep hearing good news that project is moving up the ladder. And if that project is funded, I believe that will have a significant impact on our localized flooding it's not going to solve a Sandy, that's not. But it will help us significantly in doing the day-to-day, the high tides, everything that's just.
Flooding on Bay Street in front of Bay Avenue in front of my shop.
We believe it will minimize it.
I can't say we'll stop it, but we believe it will definitely minimize it. It'll also give the opportunity for the water to get out, and that's the key.
Well, it'll minimize it, and what it also does, it's going to update and modernize what's happening, what's underground right now. It's roughly a $4 million? $4.2 million project that we've been working on, and Councilman Francie had the lead on it for a while. And what's happened is, we have everything ready. You could literally start it tomorrow. That's how detailed these plans are and ready to go. We were number 3, and they fund the top 2. I've heard from various sources that one of the top 2 is not ready to go, and they're moving out of the top 2. We are literally have it ready to where you can pull it off that shelf and start tomorrow. And that was that's a 75%? So that would be 75% we would not have to pay back out of that $4.2 million. And that would be a significant improvement. Would it stop a Sandy? I don't think really anything would other than raising the actual
I'm not
land.
necessarily about the Sandy. I'm just thinking.
But your everyday full
heavy
moon,
rains,
right, full moon, high tide, little event will probably be minimized to almost nothing. And we understand you can't have sustainable investment, whether it be business or private, unless we do that. And that's what we're talking a lot about on Wednesday night also. That's going to be part of the whole package. Yeah, and it's going to be at the community room at Patak Towers, 7:30.
Get there early, it's not as big as this one.
Yeah, a little smaller than that.
Might have air conditioning. On that note, if anyone needs to get in touch with me, you can always get me via email. That's probably the best way because I am all over the place, running around back and forth, but it's all good. And I want to really thank the residents of the community that have been very, very supportive from day one in this whole endeavor. It's the folks of the community, the leadership of the governing body, and all the volunteers, but the folks in this community have really come together and really done a remarkable job. Every time someone from out of town comes in, when they come through and they remember being here maybe 4 or 5 months ago, they are just amazed at what the folks have accomplished. And I know we still have a long way to go, and there's a lot of homes and a lot of issues that we're dealing with, but they really feel when they come back through here that the town has really, really picked itself up, and we hope to continue to do that. So for that, I thank you. Yes, sir.
I just have a question about the candy ground process for the starting down at Government Park.
I don't have a start date on that.
It was proposed that they're going to take that playground and move it to the rec center. Now the rec center is going to have beach access. That department's going to move.
Well, the rec center will have beach access now. You got to come from the parking lot.
No, well,
If the playground, to answer your question,
they're going to move that playground.
to answer your question, if the playground can be deconstructed in a manner that it can be reinstalled, the answer would be yes.
Right.
I can't comment on that. That's not part of what the FMBA is going to be able to do with their volunteers, because once you get into a structure like that of dismantle and reinstall, believe it or not, there's also specialists that install each type of playground.
There's regulations.
They're certified to do game time, but maybe not play world stuff. Most of the contractors, though, in that line get certified to do all the installations, but those are the things that, there's a lot more than just picking it up. I have no timeline.
The bridge or the bridge, our goal is to have it done for Friday. No, we're as quick as we can, basically, you know what I mean? But we would not want to get rid of the equipment, obviously, that is still good down at Veterans. Right, we want to relocate and maybe add some more to the.
But we're not gonna take that down until it's ready to roll.
Till the new one's ready to come in, obviously. Also, a lot of folks in this room I want to thank too, because they did a lot of manual labor tearing down that, old boardwalk that was down there too. A lot of guys came in, a lot of gals came in, volunteers from out of town, and even some contractors came in with their people and helped tear that down, and, no fanfare, whatever it was. I know the chief of police was down there, a lot of people were down there just ripping it out. So I want to touch on two things, then we're going to have our break. We know we need some more help. Our police needs more help. We're trying not to spend tax dollars to do it. So we've done two things. We've applied to the Attorney General's office of the state to get a designation called a resort area. What that allows you to do is hire more specials in the summer between Memorial Day and Labor Day. In the past, it was told you either have it or you don't, and you can't get it. We've seen a lot more help, let's say, from state offices since Sandy hit. And a lot of the things that we did as a town to help the state out is now coming back to help us. So when we opened up the ferry terminal in a week and we did things like that and no one else had mass transit into New York and we did, and we didn't hold the state for ransom, this is why. We want them to help us as we rebuild and hopefully relieve us on some of the debt that we're going to have when this is over. Because as Tim mentioned, the $4.5 million is half of our budget for 1 year. Just so everybody understands the type of money we're talking about. Also, we have a special program that is for free that Councilwoman Ryan brought to my attention. We're going to have representatives from the police department and council go to this, which will be crime prevention through environmental design, and it's an approach to deterring criminal behavior through environmental design in your downtown. What we're trying to do is obviously, as we get people coming back in, you have maybe 5 or 6 houses empty on a block, and you get halfway back in, not have yourself get robbed and your house get vandalized, because that's happening in other towns, and I've seen that in the news all over. We're going to take it, if you don't mind indulging me, let's take a moment of silence for all the victims in Oklahoma. All right, thank you, folks. We're going to take a break and then come back and try to answer all your questions. Just turn in the index cards to the table over here, to my right.
If there's storm drain that was built, they bring and they're probably just curious. Well, Sandy, no, we have it down. There's still places.
I'll let you.
And they come out. No, just asking.
Yes, we did. Now we're going to say you should next card to next question. Daddy has to see it.
To some degree.
You're going to get started in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, all right, everybody? We're going to go back to start answering questions.
That's all. I hear what you're saying. We need to wrap that all up. You know him? No. No, you're telling me that, but I just tell him any of those things. Email to the director.
Grab your cup.
No, that's good. It's
started. Dale, you want to come up? We're going to start taking questions from the floor with the index cards. My daughter's very excited, as you can see. Let's get Dale off the people.
Hey,
I'm going to take the first one because it's something that we're doing as a town council. There's really not any engineering involved. The question is, with all the money that we have coming in with permit fees and construction fees and things like that, are we anticipating hiring extra help? I'm assuming they mean in building and backup clerical for engineer and code enforcement. And the answer is yes. We're going to start talking about that again at this meeting on Wednesday night as a town. And we think we know the needs right now. But that's probably going to evolve as we go. We did get our grant that Mr. Hill was talking about extended into January, so we can keep some DPW and clean up on and some clerical also. The next question says, I missed the beginning of the meeting. Was the property tax issue discussed? The home's inhabitable, and we have applied for a reassessment. It wasn't, but we are trying. We have loans that are being able to take out that to hope to stabilize the tax base. Our goal, as every year, is to come in this year with a zero budget. We've done that 2 out of the last 3 years. And we're going to try to do that as best as we can as town council. We're currently rebuilding to the current AE height level. If FEMA changes us back to a V zone, will we be grandfathered in? Let's talk about what the exact law is right now, as far as V, AE, and A, and what that does if it evolves.
Right now, if you're looking to build a house or lift a house, right now you have to comply with the ABFE. So as we sit here today, a majority of you are in that V14 downtown. All right? Even if it goes back to an A zone later, if you're coming in today for approval, it's going to be in that V14 zone. All right? So if you want to hold out, or if you say you get your approval and you're going to wait around a little bit, and in the meantime the maps change and they get adopted and you go back to an A, you go feel free to come in for a modification and then build to an A standard. But right now, you still have to build to that V14 zone.
And what happens if it changes A to B? Is there really any bearing on that?
If it goes back to an A and you build to a B, no harm, no foul. It's where you build to an A and you go to a B, then that's where it gets tricky.
A little clarification of that. It doesn't change the height of what we need to build to. It's just the type of pilings that we use.
Right. The elevation may not change. You might go from a V14 to an A14. But all that does is in a V, you're required to go on piers and pilings and open the foundation, where in an A, you can use a solid foundation with flood vents.
And also the way the ordinance was written, it's going to recognize the actual, it'll evolve as if it goes up and down the height. It's not saying a number. It's saying the AFE. It's not saying you're 12 feet. It's saying whatever it is currently, and the ordinance would change as the height changes up or down. Mr. Mayor, that's a follow-up question.
Sure. We took a ride over to Seabright this evening, and we saw one particular house that was being lifted with a solid cinder block base of some type. And it sure did look like 14 feet to me.
Well, keep in mind that Seabright, in many areas of Seabright, they had a lower requirement, and I'm thinking because of the seawall that they have. They weren't required to be at 14. I believe a lot of theirs was 8, 9, and 10. I think there is a section of higher than that down the other end.
They're not even a V zone.
Right, but
And we are.
Right, keep in mind, there is a small section of Seabright that's a V, I believe. But keep in mind, it's not 14 from the ground.
Exactly.
It's 14 from the mean low water out the
Sea
river.
level.
Right, it's based on sea level. So your ground might be, say, elevation 6 already. Then you'd have to go, say, 8 or 9 feet above that.
Not 14.
Right, so it might not look like 14, but you'd be at true elevation 14, but it's based on sea level.
No, I was just amazed how low it was. That's all.
Yeah.
Shocked.
Tim, I'm going to ask you to talk about Arcadius with this, but Oriana's going to read the question. Go ahead. Did they
hire someone
for
for property cleanups?
talk about like Arcadius and the company we hired and what we're doing?
Okay, with Arcadis, there's a program that, there again, it's another one of the FEMA programs that we're applying for. It's private property debris removal and demolition. There is a process, and we've had Arcadis come in and do presentations to the public before the governing body, and we're also trying to identify the number of homes that may need that type of activity. The issue is going to be, we have to fund this up front. It's just like anything else. It's not a grant that we're going to get and be able, so the borough does have to fund that program 100% up front and get reimbursed on the back end, but we're in negotiations with Arcadis to make that happen. They'll actually manage the program, identify, and there's a whole process that they did go through the other night at the council meeting. They gave a presentation here. So if you hear anything about private property demolition or private property debris removal, and I'm not talking, no offense, sir, we're not talking about the little bag of debris that might need to be removed, but there, we have a feeling we're going to be faced with some real issues down the road that we need to attend to as a town. So that does concern us greatly.
You're talking about foreclosures, abandoned property.
I'm not at liberty to say whatever. It could be any property. It could be someone who owns their own property who says, you know what, I'm going to maybe opt for demolition, and there may be monies that'll enable them to do that within the parameters of the program. So might not necessarily be foreclosed or abandoned properties, or maybe a way for folks who are in that situation who are looking for a way to have that type of demo done, and then they can restart. And there again, if you're using your ICC monies for that, because you can use them for demo too, then you have to be careful of how you use the funds. But yes, to some degree, we are looking, trying to identify abandoned properties. I do encourage, and I know it's not an easy thing to do, but we are trying to compile a list as best we can. If you know someone has not been next door for 3-4 months, I hope and encourage you to report it to our building department, our construction office. We can't really do much about it, but we're trying to track that too. And neighbors would know the neighborhood better than if our code enforcement guy walks by and says, okay, well, not really sure if somebody's there. Yes?
In my neighborhood, there are several, including my home, that are sitting there unoccupied because of the substantial damage.
Have they been cleaned out yet though, ma'am, since the storm or no?
Some haven't.
Okay.
Some haven't. Okay?
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with, waiting for insurance money, working for adjusters, you're not having personal funds.
Sure.
To make this happen until funding becomes available for the property owner. So when you go through the town to see who's there, keep in mind, because it's uninhabited. If you have our phone numbers on record as property owners, please call us.
Now, what we've
Ask
done.
us what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah, we're not, I assure you this, I shouldn't be that, but we're not going to just go in and start knocking down properties. If and when we get down that road to that path, there's a very strict right of entry process, there's a very, very concise legal process.
And with the tax records, we have a list of everybody who's obviously the legal owner and things like that. But what we're talking about also, which is a bigger problem than like yourself, let's say you have people in your that you know were there in good standing and they have had an issue since Sandy. I have a house on Snug Harbor next to Patty Parker. She'll tell you they've been gone 3 years before the storm. And now several of these, I counted about 80 looking on my own research that are owned by banks since 2010. So I contacted the New Jersey Bankers Association, and I got a nice letter back and a phone call from somebody who's in their office that you can't reach, just the general public can't reach, and they've been assigned to our town. So as this process evolves, and the letter says clearly, listen, we have 90% of our people are in good standing, upstanding banks, and they'll be helped. There is a 10% that, just like in the general, when you deal with people too, you're always going to get that small percentage that are not doing the right thing. But 90% of them, this person assures me are, and anything that we can to alleviate these problems we're going to do, up to and including, letters out to the legal owners. There's money available at some point for demolition if we have to, and things like that. We're trying to stay on the positive level, but we also know the time is of the essence.
Excuse me, Frank, if I may, the EPA, I talked to the EPA, the Monmouth County Long-Term Recovery Group. They're not mandated to clean out the homes because there's no regulation on mold. But if a home by you does have freestanding water underneath still or on the property.
In the crawl space, whatever it is, right.
You can call the EPA. There should be a number if it's abandoned property that has a property management number on it. Call them, tell them it has standing water and you're gonna call the EPA. I got action like that, getting the freestanding water out, but they haven't cleaned out next door to me. But I did tell them that there was water underneath still in the crawl space. They were there within 1 day pumping it out.
Right.
So it's not a mosquito problem now,
Right,
but
right.
those are the only regulations you can do right now, but I call that property manager, I call him 3 times a week.
And I tell you, I had in probably 45 minutes, I had the owner of record of the bank. Some of them even they had listed the officer who's in charge of it at the bank, probably in 45 minutes. So, I mean, this is something that we're going to do. I'm not telling everybody has to go out and do that. We're doing that as it evolves in the town. But like Mr. Hill said, if you know for sure you have these that we're not aware of, obviously it behooves you to tell us and you can pass that information down at the Solution Center. Did anybody else have any questions on this?
Well, the demolition, since I am interested in demolishing the house, when will we know about this company?
They've already applied. The company on our behalf has applied.
Oh, okay.
And they had a presentation at the last, they did it for us in private, and then we rolled it out, that's why the last meeting was so long. They actually had a presentation on what they're going to do. They gave you scenarios of cooperative owners, uncooperative owners, a legal process on both. And it was a very good, presentation, and the borough has hired them for, obviously, our residents' behalf.
Oh, okay, so then we just applied through.
Yeah. And if they've actually applied townwide, and then they'll be able to have different scenarios of what we can and can't do. And I'm sure there's a process, you can't just, like Tim said, kick in somebody's doors. But up to and including, like, they have the forms for hold harmless of the contractors, if it comes down to that, have them go in and take care of something for a health reason, that the contractor wouldn't be liable.
Okay.
So they have every scenario pretty much covered. They didn't start yesterday. They've been doing this for years with different disasters.
But I'm saying that to actually, how do I actually?
We'll keep you.
I would say keep coming to meetings like this, because at some point there'll be a meeting just for that, like we were talking about before.
Right.
There'll be a meeting just for what we're doing on Bay Avenue. There'll be a meeting for house lifting. The house lifting thing that we're doing with Irene is really the dress rehearsal for the Sandy one, because that's going to be hundreds. And Irene's going to be 12. There'll be somebody that's going to be the project manager. There'll be subcontractors. I'm sure this will be a whole thing in place that we're going to do over a year or two time. Okay? Tim, I'm going to ask you this one. Go ahead. What is the deductible?
What is the deductible on the public buildings, the rec center or the borough hall?
Or both.
Or both. Well, oddly enough, because we didn't have flood insurance, the deductible per building, not aggregate, was $500,000 per building.
Now, how many buildings are we talking about?
Well, that was between the community center, the borough hall, the public works yard, public works garage. No offense to that facility, but $500,000 deductible there. And the first aid building is also covered under the borough's insurance. So we're talking about $2 million in deductibles, $500 per.
With a budget of $8 million for the whole year. So let's think about that impact.
Question?
Yeah, if you take the grant money, it's just like if an individual takes FEMA money, and you decide to put that money into the buildings, can't for $500,000 the borough rebuild these 3 or 4 facilities and self-insure themselves again?
We're in a joint insurance fund. We're in the Monmouth JIF. We're not self-insured. I think it would be cost prohibitive for the borough even try to go on solo joint
Okay, so
insurance.
yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at.
I don't think it makes a lot of sense to rehab Borough Hall, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was not in the greatest shape anyway, and now you're talking about a possibility, and it really depends on what you believe is going to happen long-term with these storms.
Yeah. Well, how did you not have flood insurance before?
We weren't required.
It wasn't required.
You weren't required, now you are?
Yes.
And it's going to escalate higher, just like people's individuals that don't raise or
Because
move out of the flood.
what's going to happen is if we do, and we will be eligible, and we'll use the community center as an example. If we can flood-proof, mitigate, whatever you want to call it,
Possibly raise,
to
whatever.
make it a viable building under the standard, FEMA will probably give us funds to some degree. However, with that also comes a requirement that you carry flood insurance.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
you're,
or maybe raise, or like Tim
That's what I'm
said.
saying, is that if you had $500,000 to work with and you weren't required to have flood insurance, it might make more sense if you remodeled it a couple years ago for $400,000, $500,000, just remodel it again.
it may.
I think it's going to be different scenarios for each building.
Yeah.
I think that the community center has so many good assets to be there, you don't want to move that. I think that's pretty fair. That didn't flood in Irene. That only flooded in Sandy. I don't think that building ever really flooded,
Never.
right? And you were there 30
Never.
years, so you know.
I was there 78 it was built, I came in
And it was in pretty
79.
good shape because we refurbished it within 10 years, of the event of Sandy. So I think everybody wants to keep that where it is. We just got to upgrade it, whether it be floodproof and raise it, whatever it is. There's more emotion attached to that building, I think, than there is the Borough Hall. Borough Hall is an office. I appreciate all the good things that happen down there. Everyone's doing a great job, but we can put that on Shore Drive where we own property also and be a little further out of the floodplain and raise it up and be ADA compatible. There's probably grant money for that too.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion. There was 7 feet of water
Yeah.
in front of Borough Hall, and granted that was Sandy, but what if we have more like Sandy and,
Yes.
it just doesn't make a lot of sense to put a lot of money into that.
Question to the back here.
Yeah, just on this issue, has the borough looked into relocating?
Yeah, oh yeah. We're gonna, I don't know about up the hill, because
Acquiring property,
we don't own any right now up the hill. Right now, we have the trailers on Shore Drive, and if you look at next to the firehouse, now the firehouse, the current new one, had about 1.5 feet of water in Sandy, really had no water ever there before. And down Shore Drive on that same plane, we own down to obviously the community lot, right? So we could put other buildings there too. And you could,
Further up the hill, like upside down by the high school or somewhere else?
we're not discounting anything, not talking about it.
We wouldn't need to have one insurance wall.
I don't disagree. Yeah. Now, we may also be out of the flood insurance need of not just having basic if we go to Shore Drive and raise.
Right, if we raise the building and build to the standard where we wouldn't need flood insurance,
We can
we're
do that
certainly
too.
looking at that as well. I don't know that there's a lot of affordable prime property up on the hill that we could afford, but we could try it. We could try it. Yes, ma'am.
The personal flood insurance, I'm hearing that as renewals, annual renewals are coming on, the companies are increasing the premium costs. Is that true? And is there anything one can do to mitigate this?
I can't comment, other than I've heard that they're not supposed to be able to do that, but we've said, yes.
I just got my bill yesterday in the mail, and it's the same as the.
I was going to say, mine's the exact same also.
Right. They could raise it based on claims. Okay, if you've had repetitive loss claims over the last couple of years, or 2 years ago you had a tree fall, the year before that you had something else, they could do it on a repetitive
But like
loss
many
claim
utilities
basis.
that are public, users, they're going to be limited how much they can raise it. Now, they will be able to do it every year. Once you get to a certain point in time that they say you could have lifted your house or flood proofed it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's still to be determined, in my opinion.
Well, let me-
My personal experience, but I'm under the impression that until the BFE became.
Final, right.
That they weren't supposed to be able to raise.
I would agree with that, and I don't know of anyone
Based on
has
elevation?
had that happen.
Yeah, based on the elevation they can't, but on claims they certainly could.
Well, yeah, like anything else, like if you get too many car accidents, they can raise your car insurance. Same thing. If you have multiple.
I can say, I got an eye opener today, I don't have flood insurance, not that that matters, but I got my homeowner's insurance policy and it was a $400 increase. And I have no,
Percentage-wise, is that any idea?
that was probably 25%.
Wow.
And I have no recourse on that, other than call banking insurance and say, hey, what's going on with this? Or find another hopefully find somebody else that'll insure the home. Yes, ma'am?
To be eligible for SBA, you have to have contents on the flood insurance, which I do not. So the SBA said if you want the loan, you have to get contents. And so I did, and then they said it's not mine. Now I'm not living in a home. But I had to renew from May 12, 2013 to May 12, 2014 without, there's nothing I could do. So I had to pay, get the SBA loan to be eligible, pay for contents and money. And that you don't have your own contents. They didn't do. Well, it's actually, they're saying you have to estimate what your contents were at. And I said, look, the fact that you're not living in the home, you can't live here, this place doesn't matter. They said, no. That's what makes some of the questions about this SBA loan.
Well, the other thing the insurance industry is, I know in the same mailing today, I got a survey and they were asking specific questions as a result of Sandy, did I meet various criteria? And one of them was my home abandoned for 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months? So I'm not speaking on behalf of the insurance companies, but those are the type of questions they're out there asking. And I think it's all because, number one, they don't want to see abandoned properties to the best of their abilities either. Vacant properties tend to, get into their own issues, unfortunately. So what's going on in the insurance industry, hopefully we'll have this gentleman here in the future again at the next town hall meeting.
We should have a little more concrete, what's
Because
going on.
it's all over the board. The only thing we have been told though too is flood insurance, if I were to sell my home, it's no longer transferable, so we
Correct.
understand that, which is another issue. So
That'll be
you
another
start,
variable,
that person, if I were to sell my house to Tara then assumes her own flood insurance probably at a 25% increase.
Or more, you never
Or
know.
more,
Yeah.
depending upon the situation. So that's another one of those unknowns that everybody here is dealing with flood insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Is there any possibility that the state might buy our houses like in Sayre?
I haven't heard anything on that, folks, but go ahead, Mr. Hill.
I can touch on that, and the Sayreville example is out there all over the news, which is a good thing. What the state has been doing over the past many years is trying to buy up properties that have been repetitive loss in floodplain areas, particularly in the Passaic River area and things like that. They went in aggressively, bought up those properties. Those properties then became open space forever. They could not be transferred. They were taken literally off the tax rolls, and they became open space to protect watersheds and also to avoid repetitive loss. Sayreville is looking at it, but what they're doing is they really want to do full neighborhood clearing of that. In other words, in Highlands, if they were to come in and try to do 30 property owners said, gee, I want in on that. What we'd in effect be doing is taking 30 properties off the tax rolls that would have to remain as open space forever. And would they really do any mitigation of flooding? The answer would probably be no, as a community-wide effort. So unless there were 1,000 homes, which I don't think is the case, and I don't think we want to advocate that. So Sayreville's looking at it, but they have neighborhoods upon neighborhoods that have had repetitive loss.
Every single year.
They're considering it, but there's a lot. It's going to be tricky because then you get into homeowners' rights and everything else. If 6 of my neighbors want to go and I don't want to go, how do you handle that? So it's going to be interesting. I have been contacted by Future with Hope to provide me assistance in the recovery process. They are located in the church across from the post office. Are you
working
with them?
Yes, we are.
I'll push it over to the Solution Center. Yes, the Methodist Church building was run by another facility that had a lease that expired at the end of December. Those folks were here doing wonderful things.
Yeah, they were.
But their lease expired, and the Methodist Church, who owns the property, has come back in with a recovery effort team as well. And that's I believe, who that's being run on.
I would agree with you on that.
We do have contact information down at the Solution Center, and apparently, from what I hear, they're doing some really, really wonderful things. And I can't, say enough about groups that are coming into town that are doing things for folks. So, yes, they are. We're familiar with them, and so far, we're hearing that they're giving some opportunities for folks to renovate some properties and get goods. So they're in the game, so to speak.
I'd also say there's a lot of things happening that the people that are doing it are private people, whether it be companies or private individuals. They don't want it to be public only because they don't want the accolades. But there's a lot of stuff going on. There's people walking, doing furnishing of houses. Braymore and Flanagan did that on Comcast Day. Sherwin-Williams is still handing out coupons for, percentages off at the stores in Middletown. There's a lot of positive things happening that people just don't want, their name mentioned because they're not doing it for recognition. So, what is the status on the building permit reimbursement? It got voted down at the town council 3-2. So that's not happening right now. I'd like to acknowledge one thing before we break up here. Patty Parker and Edie Moskowitz, please come up. They're working down at the Solution Center, and they're doing very good work with people down there. They got a couple things that Patty gave me that she wants to make sure we hit on, and I want you ladies to come up. Let's give them a hand for all the good work they're doing.
We just want to say there's a couple of things that are happening down at the Solution Center. Sometimes programs change, so it's good to stop in and see us, every once in a while if you need any assistance at all. We have a Gateway Church that are having volunteers come in starting in June. They're going to assist residents with yard work, small household repairs, and general cleanup. There is going to be some degree of more skilled workers coming in, but there's no guarantees because those guys are out making money right now and are committed to other things. So they are going to have limited amounts. You need to come into the Solution Center to sign a waiver for that and to be put on the list. It's going to be, again, first come, first serve. And as the work comes in, we give it to Gateway. Gateway sends the volunteers through the Solution Center. The distribution center is at 171 Bay Avenue, the old Borough Hall. Edie and myself put in extra hours, and we're going to be opening more often. We're going to be there on Tuesdays, 10 to 2, Thursdays, 4 to 6, Saturdays, 10 to 2. And with our great assistance of Chris Masita right here in the red shirt, I just want to say thank you, Chris, who volunteers week after week at the center. She also agreed to open up on Sundays when she's available, so we will post that as needed, but she's a great asset to us, and I really appreciate everything you've done. The Salvation Army Outreach Center in Hazlet is at 745 Pool Avenue. That's actually on 36 in Pool on the corner. Quick check is off on the southbound side. It's in the old AM to PM daycare center. They have appointments on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We have the number down at the distribution center and at Solution Center. They have intakes come in. You have to bring your FEMA identification, social security cards for everybody on the FEMA ID. And they do an intake with you. They speak to you, see what they have available, see what your needs are. They assess those. Then you're allowed to so-called shop in there. Any of the products that they have that have been donated, you're allowed to take as needed, and those are available on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Each time you go in, you just have to sign in, but the first time it takes about a half an hour with all your information. Another program is we do have limited amount of granite and sinks, undermount sinks that are available to Highlands residents. That was donated from EOS Surfaces in Virginia. We do have that information at the Solution Center also. The granite and the sink, some of the, the products that we have there are what they have available. And then you have to go up to Union Beach to pick them up because the granite company would only do one drop-off, and because of the amount of the load, they only wanted to put it in one spot and not transfer it to us, and it's too much. So again, you come into the Solution Center for that with your FEMA ID and your proof of address, and then you can go up to Gateway in Union Beach and tell them what you need, and they'll give it to you. It's basic granite and sinks. You're going to have a contractor who can take it, who can buff it, and do all of the cutting and everything with it. So it is a little bit of an undertaking to get that stuff, but if you have a contractor that's willing to work with it, you can get that through there. And we're available anytime. If you need any assistance at all, we can help you with grant programs and any of these other things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Just want to say too, down at the Solution Center, if you don't have a contractor already or don't have someone to do specific things, we have a lot of talented people in town. And we try to put all their cards and their business information down at the Solution Center. And I encourage you, if you can, at all costs, hire local. There's very few things that the people in this town can't do. We have a lot of crafts people and trades people, and you do a lot of the stuff that we can get it done, and done right in the town, and they know what to do because they didn't start yesterday. My door, Oriana.
Thank you for coming to the Mayor's Town Hall meeting. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. That's a future government. Johnny, you got it.